and is a Nintendo Switch Pro on the way. All this and more as we once again delve into the pop culture cosmos. And we're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. This is Gerald Glasser from Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our shows. And if you can, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Plus, if you can like, share, subscribe, or do anything that you can to support us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos, it is sincerely appreciated. But it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without my good friend. It's our own Joshy Josh of Humanican Media and Pop Culture Cosmos. You got to catch what he's doing today at Pop Culture Cosmos. Congratulations, You Suck, which you can get right now at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And of course, his shows, Topicocalypse and the Super BS Gamescast. It is my good friend. It is Josh Peterson. What's up, man?
What is going on? It's another Sunday here. We're bordering on Monday, coming up here soon. It's been a big week for releases. Seems like that's been kind of a pretty constant thing here lately.
Absolutely. It's kind of seen some good stuff coming around. And we will be talking about a new latest release for a good show that's come out called Amazon's Invincible, an animated show, adult in nature, so you can't let the kids watch it, but it's an animated superhero genre, which we saw the first 3 episodes to. We're going to talk about that coming up in a sec. Plus, we are also going to be talking about Ghost of Tsushima, a new movie's being adapted. Good idea or bad one coming up on the show. We're also going to be talking about a lot of things when it comes to the GameStop board. And after the GameStop stock fiasco and all that, the GameStop board, I think according to Josh and according to several news reports out there, has checked on out. So we'll talk about the future of GameStop coming up here in a sec as well. We've also got, speaking of video games, a possible new Nintendo Switch Pro in the future. We'll talk about the prospects of that and what we would like to see with a new Nintendo Switch coming up as well. And of course, I mentioned earlier, as far as in the intro, the end of Superstore. It happened last week, one of my all-time favorite shows, and I will go into more depth on exactly why this is a show that ended too soon and what it brought to the table for American broadcasting coming up later in the program as well. But I will tell you right now, man, it's been a good time indeed. What you been up to as far as pop culture is concerned?
I've just been trying to keep up with all of it. You know, I was telling my wife earlier that like this is it's hard. There's so many things coming out at once that like if you fall behind, like for example, the other night I've been pretty busy this week with grading papers. I'm a teacher and all that, but like if I stop watching things for one day and like say I want to play video games that night and I sit down to play video games, I stop watching something for one day, I fall several hours behind on television. It's absolutely insane.
It is absolutely insane. So, I mean, you cannot go ahead and I guess just be able to go ahead and take a day off, because if you don't, you're going to miss, because if you do, you're going to miss something. You're going to miss a lot of stuff out there. So it is going to be something we're going to have to keep up to date on. And we try to the best we can here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. You can't take a day off. I can't even take a night off. My daughter, got a little injury. I can't take that night off. I still got to be checking, still going to be scanning, because if you miss something, you're out and about and people jump on it ahead of you. But again, there's so much to cover, and we try to do that here at the Pop Culture Cosmos, and we cannot thank you enough for your support in doing so. But one of those new pop culture outlets is from Amazon. And with The Boys being such a massive hit, an adult superhero series of another kind seemed to be well in order. So I want to hear your thoughts, man, on Amazon's Invincible, which opened up late last week. I got a chance to check out the first 3 episodes. I know you got to check out some of it as well. What are your initial thoughts on Amazon's Invincible?
So Amazon's Invincible. I had read the comic book. Like I'm a big fan of the comic books. And for those of you who's the writer of Invincible? I'm trying. Oh,
Oh, it's Robert Kirkman from The
Robert
Walking
Kirkman.
Dead. In
Yeah.
fact, there's a ton of Walking Dead cameos, regular characters that are from The Walking Dead. Stephen Young, the Academy
Yes.
Award nominee,
Yeah.
he is the lead
Like,
character in this. J.K. Simmons is in this. I mean, there's a lot. Mark Hamill also makes an appearance as well, but a ton, absolute ton of Walking Dead characters, Walking Dead actors from The Walking Dead are involved in this, from Lenny James to Sonequa Martin Green. Just the names go on and on as far as the Walking Dead fans out there. The TWD fans, I'm going to support this, wholeheartedly. But I want to hear your thoughts on Amazon's Invincible.
So, it's funny. I sat down to watch this last night, and at first glimpse, it feels like a Saturday morning cartoon, right? Like when I was a kid, I would wake up early, get down on the couch, get my bowl of Fruity Pebbles or whatever it was, and I'd sit there and I'd watch like Spider-Man and the animated adventures of Superman and Justice League when that became a thing. That's what this felt like. It had a very nostalgic feel to me.
Yeah.
And then as I'm sitting there watching this, like I start to feel about halfway through the episode, I started to feel like burnt out on superheroes. Like I thought to myself, like, is this because I'm being oversaturated with superhero related media right now? Because we got Falcon and Winter Soldier, WandaVision just came out. There's The Boys. I'm watching Daredevil with my wife, and I keep sitting there. I sat there wondering for a minute, like, is this due to like superhero fatigue or what's going on? But then I realized that, like, and I kind of realized this when I was reading the comic books, but it has a lot of elements from superhero stories that have been used before. You look at it, it seems to have like, it takes a lot from Superman, and it takes an awful lot from Dragon Ball Z. You look at the Planet Conquerors, right? And which Dragon Ball Z I'm pretty sure inspired by Superman. Just looking
Has
at
some Young Avengers thrown in there, and a murder mystery to boot as well.
So there's so many elements from existing superhero things that have been incorporated into this, and like I guess seeing it on screen really brought it to life. And I sat there thinking, when the episode was over, I thought to myself, like, I don't know if I really want to watch any more of this. Like I liked Justice League Dark Apocalypse or Apocalypse War,
which was Apocalypse War, but TJ Johnson came on the show and he absolutely loves it. I thought it was pretty good as well.
Apocalypse War or Invincible?
Yeah, Apocalypse.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a really, really great story. A great conclusion to the animated Justice League films from years back. But this right here, like this, seeing that last scene with Omni-Man, right, when he's taken out the global Guardians of the Globe, is that what they're called? He's taking them out, and you see just like it's so graphic, and that it was shocking in Justice League, but it worked a little bit. But this just feels felt a little bit over the top to me. And like I remember being surprised by a lot of the events when reading the comic books, but just seeing it on screen made me feel like I didn't need to see it in this type of media. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, but it's something that I like. I don't overly enjoy it, but I have positive vibes on it. I will continue to watch it, but I think that there's still some type of, like you said, detachment from what we're seeing, since it's not live action. Maybe I know it's just kind of weird to explain as well, but
yeah,
I like it.
Too. Yeah,
I like it, but I don't love it. What I'm seeing so far, it's what I'm trying to say. I'm enjoying it enough to keep continuing to watch it, but I'm not enthralled by it. I'm not encaptured within the universe yet. I think a lot of it is still forced upon us as far as it's concerned. A lot of the superhero tropes that were there within the confines of it were kind of unnecessary. And I wanted to mention as well that, speaking of superheroes, I'll come up later in the back half of the show with a guest. I think is most likely going to be my daughter, Ellen Glassford, on our thoughts on episode 2 of Falcon and Winter Soldier. But getting back into Invincible, I think it's good, but I think it still's got a lot of work. It needs a lot of help to get to a higher level.
Yes, and I agree with that. And I don't I mean, let me ask you this. Do you think that it's due to if you notice in Invincible, right? He does his there's no tragedy with his origins, right? Like
No.
there is a tragedy, but like as far as him developing his powers, like his tragedy doesn't happen until after his powers are developed, as will
Yeah.
I'm sure will be present in the next couple episodes. But with him, like he didn't have to like work for it. He didn't have any type of like
Yeah.
dark occurrence happen. They just like happen, right? He's at work and he has a trash bag and chucks the thing into space and goes, "Oh, cool!" Like he was expecting it. You know, there's no like.
It's because of his lineage. I mean, he was
Mhm.
told that it was going to happen, and it was for him, it happened later in life as a teen, as someone in high school. It usually happens earlier, I guess, for people or who have his lineage per se, because
Yeah.
his dad comes from another planet. So yeah, it's like I said, it was just one scene it's not there, one scene it's there, and then he goes right into training and nobody's really excited about it, but it's just like, okay, we're going to go ahead and do it. And then some other things happen as far as the serious nature of what's going on. And with J.K. Simmons' character, Omni-Man, and that's kind of like, okay, he does something that we don't really get an explanation on. Yeah, the pieces are there to make something really special, but it
Mhm.
needs to be developed a lot more in upcoming episodes.
Yeah, yeah, and like did you watch all 3 episodes? I only watched the first
Yes.
one, but like I know where it's going, right? Where like
Yeah.
he fights his dad, and then there's it's basically the dad is from a race of like planet enslavers, you know, exactly like the Saiyans in Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't I hope that they latch on to something that truly makes his character special. Like even his suit, you know, it's not there's not really they had made this big deal about wanting an iconic suit in this story, and there's nothing really iconic about this character at this moment in time. So like I
Yeah.
really hope that, you know, on this media format that they develop the character. They make you care about the character. And I know that it might be hard and that maybe, like you said, we're feeling detached because it is a cartoon, but um, you know, again, that's just the way they chose to make this show. So that I hope that they, you know, find a way to really make you care and feel for this character.
Where there's no way they could get this kind of star power on a live action format.
Oh
Absolutely no
no.
way. They could have got them all together with all the different projects that these individuals do. So, I mean, that's, I think, one of the things that brings people in is just this huge all-star cast that's in there, especially if you're a Walking Dead fan. You're going to see a lot of people, but there's still a lot of names that are not in the Walking Dead that are still there, that are, like Mark Hamill and J.K. Simmons, that are big names. John Hamm is in there as well. So I mean, there's a lot of these big names that are in there lending their voices, and I think that's what is going to bring people in initially. And what's going to keep people in is just, again, the development of the story and the murder mystery and the things of that nature that are behind what's going on in this superhero realm. But I don't know. Again, it's just still a detachment for me. And will I ever grow to be very fond of this show? We'll see. We'll see. I like what I saw, but I don't love what I saw, I think is probably what I'm trying to say at this point.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, if you are out there, you know, and you like if you liked Invincible, I would recommend reading the comic books. The comic books are equally as graphic as this, but you know, kind of give you a bigger taste of like what to expect as you watch more and more of this show. And they are very well written. Again, like it was just shocking to see all that stuff happen in like a live motion format. You know, that I think that's kind of what took me by surprise on a lot of this. But again, the comic books are good, so I'm hoping that they uh you know, find a way to really make you latch onto the character. But so far, you know, I will probably watch more of it, but it's not, you know, at the top of my list of things to watch right now.
What are your thoughts out there on Amazon's Invincible? Do you feel invincible when you watch it, or do you think there's a little bit of maybe not so many great things about it, or there's some weaknesses there that you need to see improved upon? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, there's still much more to talk about on today's program, including some interesting board changes happening. In fact, I think, did the entire GameStop board this week, after the entire fiasco with the GameStop stock and all that, did the entire board just check on out?
So I don't think they checked out. I think that I don't think it's the entire board. A lot of them are on their way out. Like, is the CFO was leaving?
Yeah, that I
Um,
heard before.
yeah, and then our good friend Reggie, who
Reggie
we
Fils-Aime.
we tried multiple times to get on the show. He's just a busy guy. He's
Yes.
stepping down from the board, the GameStop board, after just being there for a year.
Yeah.
The former Walmart CEO William Simon and PetSmart president and CEO James Szymanczyk, I think that's how you pronounce his name.
Yeah.
They're stepping down. And so I'm wondering, I mean, obviously you know more about that biz
Just
than
the
I do.
CEO that just came on from Chewy. He's
Ryan
staying
Cohen.
on.
Yeah, he's staying on. They think that this is a move by him. Like he's trying to push GameStop into a more like digital focused stores. So they're still going to have their in-person stores that sells collectibles and games, but they're trying to make a big push for like online sales. Kind of like I don't know if everyone keeps comparing them to Amazon, even though they're two like completely different companies. But
I mean, they've been there online for years. I bought stuff off of GameStop online. It's just their presence is just not what Target or Walmart or Amazon is. And when you compete against those individual companies and they can get it to you faster than what GameStop can get it to you, it's going to be hard to compete on that level, personally.
Right. And to me, like what will drive me to say Target or Amazon as opposed to GameStop is the fact that if you buy a used game from GameStop.com, there's no guarantee that it's going to come with the case. You know, they have those little in the description says game may or may not come with game case. In Amazon, they show you a picture of what the used game looks like. Target, they show you, or Walmart, they show you pictures of what like the used games look like. GameStop doesn't do that. So that's the only thing that would drive me elsewhere. But other than that, like I think that GameStop really has the potential to have a big digital presence, to drive people from Target to GameStop or from Amazon to GameStop. They just have these little tiny things that need fixing. What are your thoughts? Because you ran a video game store. So what does it take to be successful, especially, you know, in 2021?
Well, first of all, you got to be active within the community that you're reaching out towards. That's the thing. You can't just have it, even that, and this goes for online too. You can't just have a site pop it up and there you go. You've got to be active in the community. Tell people why they need to, tell people why they need, that it's so important to be a part of your experience. Tell them why they need to stop by your location. Tell them why they need to stop by your online site. With GameStop, and they're again behind the eight ball on that, because you can go ahead and advertise, but when Amazon, Target, and Walmart are spending millions and millions of dollars already on advertising for their online stores, again, you're caught behind the eight ball on that. You have to go ahead and pitch it to the gamers. Pitch it to the gamers hard, as far as GameStop now, once again, becoming that destination as it once was in the earlier part of last decade and the last part of the last part of the 2000s and the earlier 2011, 2012, 2013, where GameStop was the place to go. Then through matters of getting online downloadable games, and then also just GameStop and the way they treated customers themselves, they've fallen on hard times at the latter half of the decade. And that's by their own doing. They just didn't adapt as well at times. And that's what you see a lot with these brick and mortar stores. I mean, I have been with two major brick and mortar stores in my life that could not adapt to the ever-changing marketplace, and both fell by the wayside because of it. So GameStop is, for years we've been talking about on this show that they've been hemorrhaging money right and left, losing hundreds of millions of dollars. And it's just something that they've never been able to catch up with. And within the eyes of gamers, you have to change them as far as their attitude towards it. Because right now they can just go to the PlayStation store. They can go to the Xbox store. And Xbox Games Pass doesn't make anything easy for them as far as GameStop is concerned, because with one price, you can get over 100 games now at your leisure that, you don't even have to go ahead and buy at GameStop. So that makes it even worse for them. So with that subscription model, or if you go to Steam, you can go to Steam and they're running sales all the time. That makes it so easy to get on a lot of these games that they sell at GameStop. So the challenge is there, my friend. I'm just, like I said, it's going to be something that we're going to see develop, but you can have all the, I wasn't trying to be mean to you or anybody else out there that took advantage of the GameStop stock price.
Oh, yeah,
hype.
of course.
My concern was the store and the company itself. Was it benefiting the company? And we see 2 months later, after this all happened, that it hasn't helped the company one bit.
Yeah. Okay. So, my thoughts on that is, you were talking about Microsoft and GameStop, right? They had some kind of contract worked out where they were minimizing the Sony section, expanding the Xbox section. There's supposed to be more coming out of that starting Q4, I think. So I don't know when we're going to see stuff from that. I know GameStop was rumoredly having discussions with Steam over something. So I don't know what that's all going to look like. In regards to the stock, I own 6.5 shares of GameStop, and I've made some money off of them, and every time the price goes down, I'll like sell and then rebuy in once it like hits the bottom of that valley. But everyone keeps thinking that there's going to be like a big squeeze or whatever you want to call it. It's funny after they had that, because everyone, all the chatter on the internet was like, it was like the hardest what do you call it, earnings conference to get into. There's like legitimate journalists that could not get into the conference because there were people, all the Reddit investors were
You're talking about their earnings report that they have. Their quarterly earnings report that they're supposed to have for their shareholders.
Yes. So there, I kept reading things where journalists were having a hard time like getting access to this.
Tell them to buy more shares.
Right. So, and they didn't really like say anything. They just kind of gave you an update on what's happening. And then the next day, the stock dropped by like $120. And then eventually on Friday, it started to slowly like crawl its way back up to what it was. So people still have hope in it. My disappointment is the fact that GameStop themselves did not take the time to really use this Reddit frenzy to their advantage. Like they didn't. No. No one took the time to, because I don't really think that it's the people investing. I don't think it's their fault. I think it's the fault of like GameStop that nothing really came out of this, because they didn't take the time to like say, hey, you're supporting us, let us support you. Like there was no connection between the two events. And I think that that's kind of weird. And it was a thing that they lost a golden opportunity there, but the people investing still have all this faith in them.
Well, let me ask you this: when it comes to going to GameStop, and it was nice, some of the investors buying them lunch, going in there to certain GameStops, and buying kids lunch, or giving them $100 or whatnot. That's nice and very genuine of them, but it doesn't help the overall thing. It doesn't help the overall company as a whole. And what I want to ask you this: when you're talking about the optimism from GameStop, I don't think you're talking about the company. I actually think you're just talking about the stock and not the company itself. When I hear you, I hear about your optimism for the stock more than I hear the company itself, because I still think we are in the same situation we were in when we talked about GameStop a year ago, when you bought it at, when you started buying it at such a low level, is that the company is still hemorrhaging a lot of money and still not figuring out a way 100% out of this mess that they're currently in.
Well, to me, I think that they're kind of connected. Yeah, I mean, right now, like I'm very hopeful the stock will go up, because that would be awesome.
Well, they're not the same. They're not one and the same. The company's rise, the stock's rise hasn't led to the company's rise.
No, and that's what I was saying. Like they didn't take advantage of this whole situation, which they could have. I think they could have done some stuff that would have changed how they look right now. Had they like connected the two events at all. But
they could have bought more shares as a company in themselves and then sold it off to provide boost, to at least pay off a lot of that debt. Hey, there's a start.
So that's actually something they're talking about, right? They're talking. There's supposed to be some meeting coming up, but the people in charge on the GameStop board are thinking about. They have all these changes they want to do, and they're thinking about selling stock in order to get the capital to fund those changes. And there's a lot of people who, after reading that, had commented that like, hey, GameStop's a good long-term investment, because there is hope for them. And so I think that the outlook on the company itself is slowly changing, but we're not seeing a lot of that happen instantly. It's all like hearsay at the moment. So I mean, unless in the next couple of weeks we get some kind of big announcement on what the company's doing, it's hard to believe any of it, until we actually see it happen.
Well, it's going to be something interesting to see how this plays out. And I don't mean to be hard on GameStop itself. I mean, as we have been for many years now. I mean, you are a loyal fan of GameStop, and you basically, they ran you out because of their customer service, which you had kept saying, and I went in there and I've had experiences where they just didn't have game knowledge. They would, when you're asking to go ahead and pre-order Uncharted 4 and they're asking you which console is it for, and do you want it for? And I'm like, it's only on PlayStation. You don't know this? You're supposed to be the expert. So I mean, that's something right there that has often plagued them as far as they're concerned. They get in the individuals there, they're supposed to be knowledgeable, they're supposed to be courteous, and they're just not. They're just there to pick up a paycheck, and a lot of times for there, and that's something that mindset has to change. For years, it's been deteriorating in GameStop, and it has to change because all these brick and mortar stores. I mean, GameStop could just one day just say, "We're going to get rid of brick and mortar stores," because we've seen that with other retail outlets.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And it right now, because they closed all the Think Geek stores have closed down. So right now, it's just a matter of time until that happens. But then again, you look, they were kind of had a onto something with what they're doing, because you go to the malls, right? You see the Hot Topics have all the collectible stuff, the anime shirts and all that stuff. Box Lunch is another company that has the collectibles and the pop culture clothing. So
don't get me started on Box Lunch, because I walked into a Box Lunch the day that Blade Runner 2049 was #1 at the box office, and I asked, "Did you have any Blade Runner stuff?" And she said, "What's that?"
Oh my gosh, geez, that's like when people ask who Pearl Jam or Nirvana is. It just makes me nauseous.
Yeah, so I mean, it's you walk into a store, a pop culture store, and they don't know pop culture. That irritates me as well. So, anyways, like I said, we're going to have to see what's going on with GameStop. I don't mean to be a pessimist when it comes to GameStop, but I've seen stuff that's happened that has trended down for the company for over a decade. I'm the person that has to see, believe it to see it. See it to believe it, the whole 9 yards. I always say it the wrong way on purpose, but to me, I have to see it to believe it in order to see GameStop going in the right direction. And if they want to go ahead to an online fully, or at least an online majority direction, they're going to have to make a lot of changes, and they're going to have to impress a ton of people that already have a lot of convenience and a lot of ways they can buy their products already. So the mountain's there, my friend, and I don't know, we'll see, but GameStop certainly has a challenge in front of them, and I know it's pretty daunting. But what are your thoughts out there on GameStop's changes and the future for GameStop as a whole outside of the stock? The stock, I know everybody's watching, but what about the company itself? Let us know. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, quickly before we hit the break, and then my conversation with Ello and Glassford on episode 2 of Falcon and Winter Soldier, want to ask you real quick, my friend, on the Ghost of Tsushima. There's a movie now in an adaptation in early production. Sony has greenlit this, and I think of all the productions out there, and I'm a big fan of hopefully a Mass Effect production coming to light with Henry Cavill as the lead. We've talked endlessly about the Uncharted movie, which I'm not in love with Tom Holland, but I'm glad to see Uncharted coming to fruition in some form or fashion. Would love to see Scott Eastwood actually play that role of Nathan Drake, but then again, another story. The Sonic the Hedgehog success. I want to ask you this. Ghost of Tsushima, to me, and its story and the world and universe it created, and you've played the game, I really think of all the video game projects out there, Gears of War, Halo, the whole 9 yards, as far as a series or movie, I think this could ultimately be one of the best.
Yeah, and this might sound very contradicting, but I think for it to be successful, they need to not advertise it as a video game adaptation.
I don't blame you. I would too. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, the game is
You pigeonhole it right
right,
into, yeah.
because then and people are going to be expecting like have expectations for it, where it should be. This game is grounded in historical context. Like it has all the places are real, the wars are real. I'm not sure about the characters, but it's grounded in a historical setting. Like it's based on a story, around events that were actually going on. So that being said, they should use that to market the film, like market it as like a Kingdom of Heaven or a Last Samurai type project, as opposed to like from the creators of Mortal Kombat, something like that. Don't pigeon, like you said, don't pigeonhole it. Make it seem like something that is being made for people who like historical epics, right? Right. If you're a fan of Gladiator or Robin Hood or again Kingdom of Heaven, whatever it is, that this is a movie that you're going to want to watch. Like don't advertise it as being based on the best-selling PS5 game, because I think that's going to be what really drives the project into the ground. That being said, directors, Ridley Scott for sure is the first one that comes to mind, but I think that it should be a Japanese director.
I agree.
As opposed to a white director. So, as long as it's, as long as it's not done, like look at Mulan had the potential to be such a beautiful film, and they just totally messed that up. So I would hope that, it's a very like culturally sensitive story, and I would hope that they keep it in line with what it is, what it's meant to be. And that's scares me, the possibility of them not doing that. They're like, oh, let's get Quentin Tarantino on this thing. I don't want to see that happen.
Ghost of Tsushima is a top-rated game. It was one of the highest-rated games of last year, but it's a game that's not well-known yet, not well-known outside to the general public. Yeah. So marketing it as a video game movie pigeonholes it to that. I think it would pigeonhole it into the fact that people would say, "Oh, it's a video game movie. It's going to be dumb. Mm-hmm. It's going to have some dumb action, and there you go." If you just pitch it as a movie, straight up movie, and very loosely tie it in, you could create the whole story can be based off the video game.
Oh, for
just
sure.
Have that video game story per se. Obviously it's very good. That's why they're utilizing it. But if you advertise it as a video game movie, I think you're just narrowing your audience.
Yeah.
I think in this case, you should go ahead and just pitch it as Ghost of Tsushima, the story. There you go, and go from there. Because if you go ahead and you just confine it with space and say it's a video game movie, I think a lot of the general audience says, "Well, what's Ghost of Tsushima? I don't know. I never played the PlayStation. What's going on?" All that comes into play, and it becomes too confusing and bothering for people. You know what? Just go ahead and pitch it as a Ghost of Tsushima movie, point blank.
Yeah. Yeah, and I completely agree, because I think that's a lot of the reason video game adaptations get so isolated, is because people go, well, I didn't play the game. I don't have any history with it. That was the big downfall with the Warcraft movie. Do you remember that? Like they gave you no backstory on it. You went into there with them assuming that you have played, hours and hours of Warcraft. They didn't give you any they barely gave you what the lore of the story was, and because of that, it fell hard on its face.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm interested to see what happens as a Ghost of Tsushima movie develops. Of course, I think it should remain as far as within that cultural spectrum, Asian director, Asian writers. It should be within the realm of that world of culture. I think just to make sure you get that authenticity down pat and the spirit of the game intact. But we want to hear your thoughts on a possible Ghost of Tsushima movie coming to life, because it's now in pre-production. Sony has greenlit it, and everything looks good for hopefully something in maybe a couple of years down the line. Ghost of Tsushima come to fruition. We want to hear your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, coming up next, it is Ellen Glassford. She's going to share her thoughts on episode 2 of Falcon and Winter Soldier. And then we return right after that with Josh and I talking about a Nintendo Switch Pro, possibly, and then also as well, the end of Superstore. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back with the show. It's the Pop Culture Cosmos. Truly want to appreciate everyone out there watching and listening to us worldwide on Twitch, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook. We cannot thank you enough for doing so. And of course, worldwide on radio stations Please catch all the tabletop RPG gaming that we do all over the place on Pop Culture Cosmos, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. We truly hope you do that. Catch all of Josh's shows that he does. And of course, we cannot thank you enough for everybody following us at the Lakers Fast Break as well. But before we head on out, I want to give a big thank you to my daughter, Ellen Glassford, for being on the show, talking about episode 2 of Falcon and Winter Soldier. But my friend, there's a little thing on the way that could be happening. I'm assuming it's going to be announced in and around E3. But since Jason Schreier, who I would call the leading video game investigative reporter right now that's out there, because he's done so many great stories and gotten so many scoops out there, he has reported that a Nintendo Switch Pro is on the way, talking about 720p, talking about faster chipset, yada yada yada, bigger, better, better, all that type of stuff that you see with upgraded consoles. And of course, ultimately they haven't talked price yet, but it's going to cost more chunk of change. So I want to hear your thoughts on a Nintendo Switch Pro. Is it something you want? And is it something we need?
So I've actually been talking to people about this, right? I've been asked this question a few times, and my answer is this: like, if we're going to do a Pro, right, it's going to have 720p, or it's going to, we're going to see higher frame rates and all that. We need something from bigger developers, right? Like Nintendo has some cool stuff, obviously, because they're, they could basically not have any games come out for a year and people will still love them. But we need something like, we need to have some mainline Assassin's Creed entries hit like day and date of release. We need bigger games, because like right now, everything on the Switch is very cartoony. So I don't really see the point in upgrading my Switch to have better graphics on something that you won't really even be able to tell that it's happening on. And so if we're getting a better console, we need bigger games and bigger titles dropping at the same day as the other consoles, because other than that, otherwise, like what's the point of having it?
And like I don't. Something we need.
Yeah.
So no, say that again. I'm sorry, because I was bleeding over you. I'm trying to share all this thing now with Restream, but go ahead, my friend.
Oh no, it's all good. But again, like if we don't have games that are actually going to utilize this new tech that it's supposed to come out with, I don't really see any point in having it. Because again, like a lot of you look at Mario, Super Smash Brothers, Zelda, like all the games are very cartoony, so you can't really even tell that you're getting higher frame rates or your picture is better. Like there's no point in that.
Yeah, there is no point in that. I mean, to me, I don't see it as a huge I gotta go and get it type deal, because like you said, most of the games that Nintendo produces for it are of an animated nature that look just fine on the Nintendo Switch, and it really won't do wonders for anyone out there. Maybe make Splatoon 3 a little bit faster. Maybe some of these ports, the many ports that you and I have talked about and laughed about trying to put Skyrim in there. And it's 2011 game, still chugging along Nintendo Switch. Would it make it a whole lot faster? Would it make it a whole lot better? I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure if just giving it a little bit better chipset is going to do the deal for Nintendo Switch. I think it's going to take something like an actual overhaul and bring out a entirely new concept of console for Nintendo in order to go ahead and get all these ports working a lot better. I mean, is it for that, or is it for Nintendo's games? I'm not sure, because Nintendo games seem to magically run fine on the Nintendo Switch right now.
Yeah, and you look at it, Nintendo's never really cared about having high quality video output. Like they had the HDMI converters on the Wii, and the Wii U had stuff like that, but it's never really been a care of theirs, because again, like a lot of their games are very cartoony, and you don't need the high refresh rates, you don't need the high frame rates, you don't need to have something that looks good on 4K, because none of their games are designed to play like that.
Award-winning director, as his full name is going to be from now on, Rob McCallum, is chiming in that he wants 120 frames per second and 12K. So if that's the case, I think they're going to have to go back to the drawing board, because I think you're only going to get Rob 720p and maybe 30 FPS on some of these ports. I mean, that's still the issue to me, is everybody wants to make money because Nintendo Switch is so popular. And in order to do so, in order to put these ports, which were meant for Xbox One and PlayStation 4, which are still more powerful than the Nintendo Switch, not to mention the PS5 and Xbox Series S and X. I mean, you're still going to have to go ahead and struggle with it. It's still a struggle. Even if you bring out a Nintendo Switch Pro, it's going to make things a little bit better. But for a lot of these ports, it's not going to make that much of a difference.
Yeah, and if you look at a lot of the stuff coming out on like PS5 and the Series X, like those consoles barely play some of these big games. So I mean, I don't understand like what the point would be of Nintendo trying to do something like that because this can only be aimed at them somewhat trying to keep up with what's going on with the other two, and I just don't think it's going to happen unless, like you said, they have an entirely new console, a Nintendo Switch Series Switch or whatever they want to call it, you know?
Yeah. Switch to the Switch. Rob McCallum also saying that bigger numbers mean better games. He just wants bigger numbers. Who cares about anything else but numbers? So I mean, that's Rob.
Got some solid numbers already, though, and they're already claiming that they're going to win the next holiday season. So I don't think Nintendo really has to worry about graphical output because they're already going to dominate the market anyways. They could put out like a game where Mario is painting the walls of a bedroom and it would still sell 1 million copies.
Wasn't that Mario Paint?
Is that a real thing? I was just talking.
Mario Paint is a real thing.
Is that a real thing? Really? Wow. Okay.
Yes. There you go, right there. Welcome to the world of Nintendo, my friend. Yeah. Anything they can slap a Mario name on they're going to do it, man. Mario Tennis, Mario Kart, the whole 9 yards. But It is going to be looking like that in the not too distant future, because again, Jason Schreier of Bloomberg has reported that there is a Nintendo Switch Pro on the way, better chipset, 720p in the horizon for it, which again, I know doesn't do everybody wonders out there if they've got a Xbox Series X or a PlayStation 5 right now with 4K on their television and they're doing with all the HDR and shading and lighting and things of that nature. It's not going to overwhelm people when you hear that, but at least it's a step in the right direction for Nintendo Switch. The only thing I got to add on to this, and we'll go ahead and close out this conversation, is the price, which obviously is the biggest concern for me because the $200 and $300 price ranges for the Nintendo Switch and the Nintendo Switch Lite, that's a nice pocket-sized, nice priced unit. It fits in the comfortable zone, and it's been there and it's sold well and it's done great for Nintendo so far. I'm seeing this as probably a $400 price range as far as maybe a $399 unit. I don't think you put a new chip in there and upgrade everything on it and just throw it for $50 more than the regular Nintendo Switch. Or maybe you bring the price down of the Switch and the Switch Lite, but I don't see that happening either.
No, and like when you look at it like this, you're paying $400 for this system. You might as well buy a PlayStation 5 or a Series X.
Yeah.
It's not, especially if they're not going to take the price of the existing consoles down, then you're paying $100 difference for something that unless you have, like a top of the line TV and what to look for, like you're not going to notice any changes.
Well, it's going to be something to see that's very interesting. Again, later this year, the bundle packages that are going to be out for Nintendo, and they always do that with Walmart, GameStop, what have you. There's going to be some bundle packages that are introduced out there again for holiday packages. Those are going to probably be attached to the Nintendo Switch or the Nintendo Switch Lite because there's still so many out there in the wild. I mean, they may add a package for Nintendo Switch Pro, but I see them still trying to push the Nintendo Switch come this Christmas.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, because let's be honest, right? We're not going to see another Nintendo Switch console probably, or not Switch, but another Nintendo console for probably a minimum of 3 years. And so this is kind of what they got at the moment. And it doesn't matter. Even if they didn't come out with this Switch Pro model, we're still going to see Nintendo dominating the market. All they need to do is put out a Mario game, put out a Pokemon game, put out come out with a new Donkey Kong or something. Like that's all we need to see from them in order for them to once again dominate the console market for the season. In honor
of our good friend Rob McCallum, How about they name the next system the Nintendo Quest?
That would work, honestly.
Well, they would probably have to go ahead and talk to Rob about some copyright issues there first, but maybe some licensing things and things of that nature. But I'm sure Nintendo and him could reach a financial settlement to his liking on that if that happens. But we want to hear your thoughts on there. We want to hear your thoughts out there on a possible Nintendo Switch Pro. Are you interested in getting an upgraded model of the Nintendo Switch you might have already? Share us your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, it's been a great episode. I know I've got some heart-to-heart things talking meant a lot to me over the past few years, but I want to go ahead and hear your thoughts. Have you got anything you're working on right now, or as far as pop culture? Because I know you and I are hopefully going to be back on for Thursday's show, because I know, and congratulations again on the 5th wedding anniversary to our good friend Marcus de la Garza, but he's going to be stepping out for this week, and I know hopefully that you'll be able to step on in. But what are you going to be working on this week, or what are you checking out?
Right now, like, I've got a lot of projects that I'm elbows deep in. I just haven't, it's been hard finding time, especially like during the school year. Once school gets out and I got a summer ahead of me, I'll be able to start pushing more stuff out. Here's a little bit of what's going on. Like, I'm working on something, we're working on our top 200 gaming show coming out, where we have, we're breaking it down VH1 music video style, where we're talking about our games, and we got some cool narration on them. Topic Ocalypse is going to be coming to an end, and we're going to have 5 packed episodes called the Topic Ocalypse Apocalypse. And this is going to mark the end of an era, a journey that started in 2017. So that's going to be fun. And I also got a project that I would like to have, make some progress on here coming the summer, where I'm going to be examining different video game franchises and movie franchises from years past. So as soon as I'm able to make more announcements about that, I will be sure to let everybody know. But yeah, man, it was just you ever like look at all the stuff you want to do and you're like, oh, man, I don't have enough years in my life to get all that done.
I hear you, my friend. I got a lot to catch up on as far as the writing is concerned for popculturecosmos.com. So I've got to go ahead and get that time as well. So I definitely hear you on that one. But before we head on out, my friend, I wanted to go ahead and pay homage to a television series that ended its 6-year run this past week, and that was Superstore. I know it's something that, if you were a follower of this show, you've heard my conversations with Jessica Boggs from the TV Ratings Guide, and I hope she's well. I know that she was in about the area where the tornadoes were happening in the in the South. So I'm hoping that she's okay. I've contacted her back and forth, but I'm hoping for everybody out there that they're okay from the recent tornadoes. But I wanted to go ahead and touch on Superstore one last time, because I think for me it's been a very special show, and I've been watching situation comedies since the late 70s to date how just old I am. Going back to as a kid when I saw Nanu Nanu with Mork and Mindy, Nanu Nanu, and then I heard, I was watching, stuff like Laverne and Shirley, Happy Days, which were the number one shows at that time, MASH, which dealt on a lot of social issues as well, and of course evolved into Cheers and everything through the 80s and then through the 90s and up into today. And of course the success of The Office as a truly tremendous situation comedy as well. I do want to go ahead and pay homage to Superstore. I know it's a show that not everybody caught, but it did have millions of followers, and it did earn a lot of ratings. Belle Booth, hey, how you doing? Great to have you here from YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us. Truly appreciate it. But before we head on out, I do want to pay homage to Superstore and say thank you for the past 6 years. It's been a great storyline. And while the basic storyline is not that much different than you've seen in many other sitcoms, where it's a man and a woman, and where will they get together, won't they get together, the supporting cast and the stories that they were telling, as far as from a social relevance, cultural relevance, the stories that they wanted to portray, they often emulated stories that were out there in the news on politics, on immigration, on the workplace, on unionization, on basically the structure of the way the world is, for the past 6 years. They had a very long running commentary while they were still trying to make you laugh. And of course, for me, it was always special. And it got me a hook in first place because I was worked at when I was a younger man and also managed big box stores like the one portrayed in Superstore. So for me, right there, that was the buy-in. But to see this whole world and universe develop right afterwards when I saw it, and the ensemble cast was just one of the big pluses of the show in and of itself. But I'm just going to say from the heart, my friend, that this is truly one of the best shows I have ever watched. It's one of the most cultural has ever been on television, and it will be sorely missed.
Yeah, I mean, so I've only seen a few episodes. My wife's a big fan of the show. She's always telling me about it. I'm going to talk from, like you had mentioned, your experience in retail. I have experience in retail as well, like having worked for Best Buy for 7 years, if I remember correctly. You look at these people who work in retail, retail stores. They are people who've often like been beaten down by their circumstances, right? Like they're still finding the strength to move forward each day. And like a lot of people who work in these stores have really interesting stories, and they find themselves in the unique position of being able to talk about these stories with people who are just, say, like passing through. And looking at a show like Superstore, I can totally see how that could be impactful to people. Like how there are millions and millions of people who are working retail out there, and I can see why this show would have such a big impact on them.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's been something that's very, very important in my life. I had to catch every episode from the second season on. I caught it, and the first season I caught up on, but I'm going to be watching again. It's one of those rare shows that will always leave an impression with me. I'm usually not the biggest fan of sitcoms. I watched all these sitcoms that I've talked about over the years, and I don't really laugh at very much of them because the humor, you're so limited by what broadcast television can do and show you. But Superstore always found a way to make me laugh and make me chuckle. And that to me was something special. Plus it told the stories and it had such a cultural relevance. And, I think even with the pandemic, they were able to handle the pandemic better than virtually any broadcast show that's out there. And the way they went and structured their show around it. And for someone like me, like you talked about your time with Best Buy, I worked and I managed, I was a general manager for Ward's, and they went under, and also a manager for the Good Guys, and they went under. But they were big box stores that had very many relationships or very many individuals like the ones you see in Superstore. Now, mind you, the ones in Superstore, the characters in Superstore are amped up to 10, but I knew people that were very similar or had similar traits or had similar characteristics of many of the individuals on that show. So they may be exaggerated, but there's still real life people out there that I interacted with that I hold very dearly in my heart. And I have relationships still to this day from some of those, big box stores that I worked at. So yes, that's something that I hope that gets left behind, is that, these people work together for so many years that you don't necessarily have to go ahead and break up and move on with your life, and that you can always still have these people in your life if you so choose to. But the cultural relevance and the stories that they told and the comments that they wanted to make on society will never be lost on what I watched with Superstore.
Yeah. And I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll see a revival of it eventually on Netflix or Hulu or wherever it might be. But
all 6 seasons are on Hulu. There was talk about a couple of the characters getting their own series, but NBC has quietly announced that it's not going to be developed. So they're saying as of now, Superstore's closed. So the Superstore's doors and lights are off, and Superstore's doors are closed. So kind of disappointed with that. I think it still had a lot of life, although America Ferrara, the lead, she left, being a full-time individual on that series at the end of season 5. I think that was, that usually sets the doom for it as far as it's concerned for any show and any series. When your lead character leaves the series, she did come back for appearances in this last season, including the last 2 episodes, which was greatly appreciated and helped bring a true closure to the series, which not all series get. But I think my time in Superstore I wanted more of, but unfortunately it doesn't look like we're going to get it. What are your thoughts out there on Superstore? Did you love it and enjoy it as much as we do? Did you have the type of relationship with the individuals there, much in the same way that you would with individuals you may work with out there in life, in the work that you have, or in your retail store, if you're familiar with that type of vocation? And like me and Josh, we had those retail type of relationships. Did you enjoy it and relate to it? Let us know. I mean, did you enjoy your time with Superstore? Let us know. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, I know there's a lot of great things up on this week coming up. I spent some time at WonderCon. It was actually pretty cool going there and checking out all the things that are going on. But I know Comic-Con is coming late this year, and it's actually going to be live. So that's some great news for everyone out there. But any last thoughts on the way out?
I mean, I'm going to try to catch up on a lot of the things that I have missed in regards to pop culture stuff coming out. Really great. Comic-Con's going live this year. I know that was something a lot of people were assuming was going to be canceled. Still excited to see what, E3 has in store for people and all the summer gaming conferences. So I have a feeling once April gets here, we're going to be just bombarded with announcements about everything, video or movies, games, all of it.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing all about all those announcements. I'm looking forward to hearing everything that's going on in pop culture. Looking forward to seeing what transpires. And you'll hear it and you'll see it first. Please follow us at Pop Culture Cosmos on your social media. Check out all the stuff that we do as far as our tabletop role-playing games almost every day on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. And of course, we always take care of you on the latest news and information in pop culture right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great